This is a continuing history series of folks in Laurel County that have made an impact in this great town of London and all the surrounding area there that we love so dear. And this guy's no stranger to me, certainly. And but now I want to let folks know that we're picking this thing back up before we get started with Bobby here, and we'll introduce him. But we've got more coming today. We've got a minister of the gospel. We've got some sports legends coming up, some business leaders, civic leaders, people who've just made an impact on you and our community. And we're proud to do this, brought to you by WJTE-FM, the Light of London. Today we have someone who I'm say is no stranger to me, certainly, and a lot of folks around, Bobby Mullins. Bob, it's good to have you, buddy.
Good to be here, Kip.
So, Bobby, you know, when I was thinking of what to ask you and what to say, your legacy that you're going to leave someday, and hopefully you're going to be around a long time, but one day we all got to go, and your legacy is going to be Pentecost, and that's what I was raised in, obviously. But I want you to start by telling me about your parents, your siblings, your family, where you were born, things like that.
Okay, Kip, I was born in River Hill area, 1940. I was born at home to Guy and Ethel Mullins, my father and mother. I had two brothers, Virgil and Elmer.
You know them both well.
Of course, Virgil was a preacher and Elmer was a singer.
Yep.
And I have three sisters, Beulah, Corey, and Grace. You know Grace very well.
Yes, yes.
And then it's just the Mullins family is an old family in this country. And
yeah.
My father and mother was Guy, and Ethel Mullins, of course, mom was a Cornelius.
Right. So now, where'd the Pentecost come in? Which side? I know a lot of these, but folks don't. I want to pull this out of you. So
well, as far as I know, both sides.
That's what I thought.
Both sides were Pentecostal.
And I know the Corneliuses was.
Yeah, and the Cornelius family, of course, they go back into the Gabbard family too. They're part Gabbard and part Cornelius, and they was most all of them that I know was Pentecostal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so you were raised in it just like I was, you know.
Right.
So now my earliest memories of you, I was a young fan of music, period, but I would be in church all day long on Sunday when I was a boy. Sometimes when I didn't want to be there all day long, but I was, you know, and the Williams family would be singing, the Mullins family would be singing. I was a fan of the Mullins family, obviously. But then Lori and I were close in age, and we were friends growing up. I always looked forward. They came down here to church and sang, and I can remember, I can even detail right in, and I talked to Lori about this when I interviewed her, but on drum sets that she had and things like that, you know, back in those days. But I always looked forward to seeing the Mullins family live. There was just something, they carried the Spirit of the Lord in. And I'll tell you this before I get the rest of my question out. This is a side note, but you know, when you know Pentecost like we do, and Sister Ruth, she'd have her hair up. Everybody wore their hair up. You know, my grandmother, I'll put her in this as well. But now Ruth, when the bobby pins started flying off the hair, you know it was on right then. You know. But now when I got to know you, you were a singer, and I didn't know you was a preacher then, but when did you get called into the ministry and preaching the gospel?
Well, I got saved in 1963, and then I guess pretty much immediately, I began to sing in church. I just
so you were going to church, but you obviously they sang in church, and you and Elmer and them, so you just started singing in church.
Right.
Yeah.
I just then in 1967, Elmer and I started the Mullins family group as singers.
Okay.
But I was called to preach in 1973.
Okay.
We sung about traveled and sung about 6 years, and then God called me into the ministry. So I started preaching, and Elmer and them went on with their group.
Yeah. So you stopped singing with them at that point?
I stopped singing, and they continued.
Yeah.
But in 1974, I went full time in the ministry.
Okay. Okay.
And I was working at Kern's Bakery, running a route. I had a good job, but when we were singing, we was singing about every weekend somewhere, like go to Ohio, Indiana, Tennessee, or Virginia, or somewhere. And the way I worked on Saturday and was off on Wednesday. But I had a short day on Saturday, so I would get in about 1 o'clock at the bakery, and they would pick me up at the bakery, and I'd get on the bus, and we'd take off to Indiana or wherever we was going.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times they would just get me back in time to go to work Monday morning.
Hey, you had to be pretty tough.
Sir?
You had to be pretty tough.
Yeah.
You had to be pretty tough. You know, could you do that now?
No, not now. I couldn't do that.
I couldn't either. I don't know if I ever could. But you know, that's special. And the Mullins is what I remember about Elmer now. And I talked a little bit about Ruth, but he really was a visionary when it came to gospel music, because Elmer put a band together, not just any kind of ragtag, but these guys were really good.
Yeah.
You know, Creech and all them guys. I mean, and Lori has been phenomenal at what she's done. But you know, and Craig played with, Craig sometimes he'll mention the times when he played guitar. My mom played the piano, and things like that are special, and you remember those things.
Yeah.
But Elmer believed in good music. He had a band when nobody had a band, and you were part of that.
Yeah, we shared pretty much the same vision, dream on that.
Mm-hmm.
We just like music, and we just kind of thought the more music you had, the better it'd be.
And it was.
And it was,
it added
really.
a lot
yeah.
to it, yeah.
But we also had several in our own family that could play, like Craig. And Craig started playing with us when his feet wouldn't touch the floor from sitting in the pew.
It became natural to him. His daddy taught him what he knew.
Yeah, it was just natural to him. And then, of course, Lori and Karen, my daughter Karen, came along a little later and played learned to play the drums, and Ruth played piano. And then Donna, my older daughter, at 9-year-old, she started playing the piano.
Yeah.
So we had quite a bit of music in the family.
Yeah. And you're just blessed and anointed. That's that's a God thing.
Yeah,
it's a God thing.
And then we had at one time Brenda and Jimmy Helton.
Yes, I remember that.
They were dating.
I had forgotten that.
And we had down.
Yes.
Jimmy played the bass.
Jimmy
Brenda
could
played
play
the
that bass, buddy.
Yeah.
And he was playing. Before he even got saved, he was playing.
You know
what I mean?
He was. Yeah.
But he was raised in Pentecost too,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
And see, him and my Uncle Sonny were big buddies down there.
Yeah.
Down in the Arthur Ridge area and stuff like that. Jimmy was a good one, buddy. So now I want to change gears here a little bit and talk about the best thing that ever happened to you. Betty. Tell me about meeting Betty. And,
Betty is the best thing. Other than getting saved, Betty was the best thing.
Yeah.
Betty and I met actually on a blind date in November of 1959. I had a friend that was wanting to date her friend, and her friend's mother wouldn't let her go out unless Betty went with them.
Okay.
So they tagged me up with Betty, and they come and picked me up at River Hill.
Yeah.
And it's November 1959 when we met, and 13 months later, in December the 24th, 1960, we got married.
So that double date, that was it.
That was
it. Now, did the other couple work out?
No.
That was the one that was planned.
They didn't work out at all.
Yeah, that's how the Lord works sometimes, But so Betty, what a blessing she is, and a sweet person and stuff. And your kids, obviously I know the family well, but your grandkids now, they're working in the ministry. Most all of them really are, and they're all awesome at it. But I know you're proud of that, Bob.
I am really proud of my family, as most it
Right.
should be.
But,
Most
yeah,
everybody
you've got
is.
good reason, though. Yeah. They're good
But
people.
they're all active, working for the Lord in their respective churches. We're all involved in 3 or 4 different churches, and all of them is working, even down to the great grandchildren. They're playing music or singing or preaching or whatever, but they're all active in church,
Yeah.
and I'm really proud of that.
Yeah, and you should be. And I don't want to brag on Karen a minute. They're all awesome, but Karen, she reminds me of my grandma. The way she presents herself, it don't matter if there's 2 people or 2,000 people. You know, and those times at the Chicken Festival when the kids would come up there, I say the kids, I was their age then. We're all older now, but family tradition would come up there, and they would be 2,000 or 3,000 people. Those early days were that whole hillside would be full of people. It's just a sea of people, as far as you can see. And it didn't matter how many people. Mono, I call her Mono Jewel Faye, would look you in the eye, buddy, and sing to you the power of God now, and Karen to do the same thing.
Yeah.
I've always made that comparison, you know, and that's a special thing.
Karen has got a
thing.
special anointing.
She really does.
Really does.
Yeah, she does. But now, the places that you've been, you touched on that earlier, where you and Elmer and Ruth were traveling and singing, and the kids was coming along playing. Some of the places you've been, churches that you've pastored, and is anything that kind of stands out to you from some of those experiences?
Well, that will take a little effort, but I've been preaching for 48 years. We sung for 6, and then I've been singing in the singing ministry or preaching ministry most all of my Christian life.
So about right at 60 years.
Close to 60 years. Yeah. But 24 years of those 48, I did evangelistic work.
Yeah.
And in those 24 years, I preached in over 250 different churches.
Wow.
We have
that's amazing.
Traveled through mostly about 12 different states that we travel in, hundreds of thousands of miles.
Yes.
We've seen thousands of people saved.
Yes.
And go back to Betty. Betty was as much a part of my ministry as I am.
I believe that.
She has always been there. They probably hasn't been over 1 or 2 times that I've ever preached that she wasn't there. And there was something come up that she couldn't be there. Mm-hmm. But she has always been by my side. And
man, that support means everything.
Oh Lord, I don't know how you could do it without your mate.
Well, Elijah was called to preach at 16 years old, and it's 10 years now. He'll be celebrating 10 years in the ministry. But to have somebody at your side like that.
Oh, well, it means all the world.
Means everything.
Yeah.
And that understands the ministry and what that calling really means.
Right.
It's deeper than just say, I was called to preach. It goes way past that.
Way past that. The other 24 years I spent pastoring 7 different churches in 4 different states. And as we've left our home here and went to Florida and pastored, we left our home here and went to Ohio and pastored. We left our home here and went to Indiana and pastored, and I pastored 3 or 4 times here in Kentucky. So we've been around the block.
Right, and it's not always easy, but it's something that you have to do. It's not something that you just decide one day, I want to do this.
Kip, can I say this? When I was working for Kearns Bakery, and I had a great job, loved it, but I had to deal with the world every day. And when God called me to preach, my vision was to really get out there and make a difference, or to try to see people saved. My heart was out there, completely tied up in the Lord, and I knowed I couldn't do what I needed to do and do what I was doing. Mm-hmm. Facing the world every day, I had to get away from that.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying everybody has to.
No, but you could feel that.
But I had to.
Right.
I had to get away from that. So I came in one evening, and I told my boss, I said, in 2 weeks, I'm leaving. And he said, Bob, he said, what, has somebody done something to you?
Yeah.
I said,
I
no.
know they
I
hate to
said,
lose you.
he said, what are you going to do? I said, I'm going to preach.
Yeah.
I'm going full time. And I never will forget. He said, Bob said, you'll starve to death.
That, you know, a lot of these, Kevin Wilson came here for a time, and he had a good job at Tincher Williams, and he said, I had to go. You know, and they said, you've lost your mind, buddy. But you know, and now you look back on that, and through all the trials and tribulations and stuff, you know.
Well, Kev, we never done without anything that we needed. In those 48 years, and I raised my children up, and people would say, your children will have to go without. They never had to go without. They had what they needed.
I know your children, and that's right.
And God took care of us, but I had to do that.
And they appreciate that now. Well, now we talked about the places you've been, churches you pastored. Of course, you pastored here for a time, and you helped Brother Jeff out.
Great time.
Great times for all of us,
Right.
Bobby. You know, because it was a joy for me, you know, to have Jimmy and Karen here. I mean, you know what I mean. And so those were just good times, and you and Betty too. But that's my generation, you know, and it was everybody loved those however many years it was, you know, and stuff. My children were small at that time, but you know, I know you made an impact on them and their lives. Elijah was 6, 7 years old, I think, at the time. Jazz was she was born in 2000. So, but now the way things are now as compared to back then. First, let's go all the way back again now to when you got saved, and I know you. Tell me about how that came to be, the conviction part of it, and you even changed the country song. I think you were number one.
I did.
Almost Persuaded, is that it? Yeah. And see, I know all those old country songs. I love that old country music. You know what I mean? But you brought it into your new world from your old world. Talk about that.
I was doing trucking. I was driving a truck.
Yeah.
When me and Betty got married, we lived down at River Hill, had a little house down there. And God had been dealing with me. As a matter of fact, Betty had been to a homecoming over at Bond. And she'd got a little 45 RPM record of Richard Hawker. Mm-hmm. You've heard Richard Hawker?
I have, yeah.
And he was singing on that record. He was singing, "Don't Fail to Go Through."
Yeah.
And when I played that, and there was something had just touched my heart, and I played that all day long on Sunday. Mm-hmm. And so I would always make an excuse. I would never be saved as long as I was doing what I was doing. Mm-hmm. And Betty began to pray and for the Lord to save me. But I got under conviction that day. And that night, my brother Virgil was over at Evans Chapel in a revival. And it come close to church time, and Betty said, Bob said, do you want to go to church with us tonight? And Donna was 2 years old. And I said, no, I'm not going. I said, I'll keep Donna for you, and you can go. Well, she got ready. And I had Donna sitting in the house on my lap, and Betty got out in the car. And I just ran out the door and I said, hold it, wait just a minute, I'm going with you.
Yeah.
And we grabbed the diaper bag, and I went just like I was, had Levi's and a t-shirt on, and went to church. And Virgil got up to preach, and he started singing a song, I'm on my way to Canaan's land.
Yeah.
And he said, if brother don't go, I'll journey on. And kept it just run all through me.
Yeah.
And
you vividly remember that. Yeah.
I got up and was aiming to go outside. And I got to the door, got a hold of the door handle, and the next thing I knew, I was at the altar.
Wow.
And the Lord had saved me.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. Brother, you mentioned Brother Hawker now. He blazed a trail through here.
Absolutely.
And Kay William, my great-grandpa, said
Absolutely.
they kept him a lot. He
Yeah.
preached here,
Yeah.
you know, his son.
Yeah.
And I've heard his name so much down
Yeah.
through the years and stuff like that. Pentecost everybody was, it was a kinship.
Yeah.
It was a kinship. They go from Carmichael to River Hill. To,
kind of a family thing.
Family thing, and that's what they did.
Yeah.
And then you told me a neat story off camera earlier there, and I'd like for you to share with the viewers too, but because it makes me feel good too. But the harmonies of the old, what I call the old Williams Family Quartet, they're all gone now, you know. And you said they were influenced, but they came to your school when you were, they were older than you. You know, my grandma was, I think we counted it up, and she was like 16 years older than you.
Yeah.
And then that would have put my grandpa at maybe 20.
About 20 years old.
Yeah. But tell us about that.
Yeah, when I was going to school at River Hill, a little 2-room schoolhouse, I was probably maybe in the 4th or 5th grade, something like that. And the Chuck Wagon Gang was in Laurel County, and evidently they was going to be singing at Carmichael.
Yeah.
And them and the Williams family came to our school during the daytime, and they sung. The Williams family had Jesse played the guitar, and Vic and your grandma, they sung. Of course, Jesse sang with them.
Yeah.
And then the Chuck Wagon Gang sang also, and I don't know how many songs they sang, but it was just everybody was just amazed.
Yeah.
We didn't even know they were coming, or I didn't.
Yeah.
I guess the teacher did.
Well, and it got you out of class too.
Yeah, got us out of class too. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that was awesome. I never forgot that, and that was the beginning of the Mullins family being involved with the Williams family, if you will.
And man, that started something.
That's that's been probably 70 years ago.
I don't know. Now they never traveled, you know, like you all did, but the singings that you all done locally, man, you all were in a lot of singings together here. I'd hate to.
Yeah.
I wish I did know the number.
Oh,
I remember when I
sung.
was a little boy.
We sung in numerous places here at home with the Williams family.
Yeah.
Laurel.
Because I can remember those days.
You know, out to Laurel Baptist and just places like that.
Yeah. But now, talking about the old days compared to these days, the things have changed so much, Bob, and there ain't no dinners on the ground no more. You know, and the way technology and things is, I say smartphones have, my old saying is smartphones have made dumb people, you know, because really we depend a lot on that. You could teach a kid now how to, I'm not saying we should, but how to do their ABCs and count 1, 2, 3 and give them a cell phone and they can type something in. As long as they know how to use a keyboard and recognize those letters and numbers, they can find the answer to any question in the world. Yeah. You know, if they know where to look for it on the internet. But those old times are more special to me now. And of course, you go back farther than I do. But talk about those times compared to now, because you have stuck to your guns, and I appreciate that.
Well,
not everybody
I'm an old school type preacher. I'm an old fashioned.
Preach out of the Bible.
But when I started preaching and singing back in the early days, we didn't know anything about technology, and I still don't know anything about it because I never did get into it. But when we sung earlier, we didn't even have PA systems or microphones or nothing. People just come and sit down in church, and if they felt like starting a song, they'd just start a song.
They'd start a song. And the rooms were smaller then.
Yeah, the churches were small.
Yeah.
And the women sat on one side of the pulpit, and the men sat on the other side.
Okay. See, I don't remember that, but
and then
I heard that.
They would whoever felt like singing a song, they'd just start the song, and everybody would join in. Yeah. And then the preacher, when he got up to preach, he had no microphone. He just had to be loud, I guess.
Right.
And I'm kind of old school, and
sometimes you still don't need a microphone, buddy.
No,
that's good. That's a good thing. Yeah. So Bob, we've talked about the churches, we've talked about the old days and stuff, but talking about the Williams family, Mullins family, Elmer sticks out in my mind. He took to CA songwriting, and he cut some of his songs. And I want to publicly say, of course, Elmer's not here anymore, and Ruth, and we miss him. But that meant a lot to my family and my uncle. He went through his hard times and stuff too, but he always felt close to he was buddies with Virgil and you know you and Elmer, and then when you came down here to pastor, of course that tickled everybody to death. But when you came here, you really didn't get to see him in his good form because he had a brain tumor and he was going downhill. You did a lot of visiting, you know, and I don't think you ever was in service with him here at Carmichael in those days when you assistant pastor here. Were you?
No,
he was already
the only time I
homebound by
was
then.
ever in church with CA was
The older days. Yeah,
oh,
when he
older
was
time,
younger
yeah,
and you were-
earlier.
Yeah, right. And you all weren't too far off in age. Maybe a few years difference in your all's ages, but you did go see him, and that name change. When I was born, this was Carmichael Pentecostal Church. I was talking to Brother Jeff the other day, and I said, "Did he bother you about that, Brother Jeff?" And Brother Jeff said, "No." But what he would do would zero in on things. His brain would take him somewhere, and he felt like you was the man. I guess he related you to Pentecost. You could get that done for him. And I remember that he used to, when you'd come, he'd say, "We need to get that." He never mentioned that to us, but he wanted to talk to you about that. And I thought that was kind of cute and funny. He thought you could change this community back to Pentecost.
Yeah, he got. I don't know. He got that in his mind. That bugged him. I guess but every time I would go, he would say something like, "When we're going back to Pentecostal," you know. But he got it. He got it in his mind somewhere or another that I could bring that to pass. And I don't know where, I don't know how he got that.
Yeah. But he was quirky back then on certain things.
He would name that to me about every time. He said, "I want to ask you something."
Yeah.
But yeah, he really he had that really on his mind for some reason.
He was fixated on that. He was fixated on that.
Yeah.
And and it's funny too. I helped maintain and take care of him. Mama lived right next to him and stuff. That's really the reason she moved when he started deteriorating. But he had some good years when he found out he was sick, but he turned his life around immediately because he would be the first to tell you that he got in a dark place, and you know what I'm saying. That happens to people, you know.
But he would always tell me, Kip. He would say, "Man, I'm so glad you're there." He said, "We need that Pentecostal."
That's what he related to you.
Yeah.
That's how he remembered you, you know.
Yeah.
And that's good stuff, buddy. I would tell him, I'd say, "We need to get cleaned up today. We need to shave and get you stuff, and stuff." And of course, he didn't go nowhere back then, but he'd say, "And the Lord does that for me, And I'd say, "Now, buddy, the Lord, I don't question that because he would do a better job of it if it was him." You know what I'm saying? Just he would, but he fixated back then on stuff, and man, he was a strong believer. He's a strong believer, man. He didn't have no doubt
that guy had a voice, buddy. I mean,
man,
he was a singer,
buddy. He was a singer's singer.
Yeah.
Is what he was.
Yeah.
He could do it.
He was a singer that singers like to listen to.
All right, there you go. He was. And his music still. He wrote in a simple style, verse, chorus. No, there wasn't no bridges or anything in his stuff. But he wrote a lot of it driving a truck down the road. But when you think about in life's battles, he's my weapon. In troubled waters, he's my captain.
Yeah.
In darkness, my lighthouse. In sickness, my strength. The pilot of my flight, the rock on which to lean. He's my everything. And that's pretty good stuff right there. That'll take you a long way.
He had a song with a message in it.
It had a message in it. It might have been simple, but it got across. Okay, so now let's talk about. I love it when you preach. You're going to preach. Actually, you're preaching in the morning, but here at 11. But anyway, you've got a fiery way about your preaching, and I joke you about how you hit that pulpit. I feel sorry for your hand, buddy. When you do that. But the good Lord anoints people in different ways. You come up in a time when, like you said, you didn't have no microphones. See, that was educational for me because I know that, but I had never thought of it that way. But every church has its own personality. You've been in many churches. Some can be a little more laid back than others. Like to preach somewhere ago that they ran in the door ready to go, and it's not always that way. But it falls on, I guess, preachers, singers, congregations, everything has its own personality. We're having 9 o'clock, 11 o'clock services. They have their own personalities. The services themselves do. But you've seen all of it in your time. You've preached a long time, sung a long time, and you still got the anointing. How do you maintain that, buddy?
Well, that's kind of a hard to really say, and get the handle on it. But I grew up, I guess, or when I come up as a minister, I guess I come up and under my type preaching. I'm going to say that, and it just kind of
See, I love it.
Filtered into me.
Yeah, I love it.
But I'd like to say this: every church, just like everybody else, has a different personality.
Mm-hmm.
There's no two people on earth that has the same personality or are alike, and that's churches the same way. So every church that I've ever been in has their own personality. They have their own workers, mm-hmm. But a church, and I'm sure you know this, but a church will take on the personality of the pastor. If the pastor of that church is kind of laid back, then the church will be laid back. Mm-hmm. And if the pastor of that church is a fiery person, then most of the time the church will be fiery.
Right. That makes sense. I never thought of it that way, but that makes a lot of sense.
That's the way it is. But a church will take on the personality of the pastor, especially if that pastor is. If they really think the world of that pastor, they will kind of, and it'll just filter in unexpectedly.
Yeah.
But I've always been just what I am. Mm-hmm.
Yes, you have.
I'm just an old country boy with no education, and I can't do anything without God helps me.
And I've heard you say that before.
And I can get in that pulpit in the morning to preach, and if God don't help me, I'll just stumble all over the place.
But hasn't He always?
He's always has. And I can remember Ted Satterfield.
Yeah. I remember
when he pastored here, and I remember him. I'm talking a lot of times. He had preached for us a lot, and he'd say when he got up to preach, he'd say, "I'll offer the man, but God, I have to furnish the preacher." And that's the way it is. I'll get up in the morning and get behind that stand and read my scriptures, but God's going to have to.
He'll do the rest.
Of it.
He gets in there
but
and does the rest.
There's different personalities. And that's not saying that anybody's any better than anybody else or anything like that. But everybody's got their own way, and there's no two preachers alike.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
My brother Virgil was a great preacher, but I'm nothing like him.
Right. And you got the same DNA, and you're still nothing like him. Right. Well, and I know I've heard Brother Jeff tell this a lot, but I think he came up under you, obviously. And he might even got saved when you was preaching. I'm not sure. He
got the Holy Ghost under me, or when I was pastoring him. He grew up. He come up under me and Virgil.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah,
I had him first,
and then Virgil. Yeah. Well, you know something. You must have really made an impact on him. I'm gonna tell you what. Next year, in the spring of 22, if the Lord tarries, He's been here 30 years. Now when I say here, I mean Carmichael Church. But that don't happen very often.
No, very seldom.
Yeah.
Very seldom.
I know in my lifetime, and I can vouch for even before that, I don't know if there's a record or anything, but I know enough I've heard enough to know about the old time preachers. Gene Huff pastored this church, Brother Wilson Harmon, Brother C.L. O'Bannon. Been a lot of them, but I think Jeff holds a record now. I don't know what the record was
the distance
of longevity. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he would be a record holder now. He and his family, and that's he. Of course, he credits God for that, but he came up under you, and of course, he's got that. He preaches out of the Bible. I've got one in my house that loves to read the Bible, and he reminds me of my grandpa, because Pata did too, and he loved to read it, and liked it some way. So it's a special thing, it's a special thing. And God has blessed the Williams family, but He's blessed the Mullins family and I know you're appreciative of that. And
Yeah, that's what I was going to say a while ago when we were talking about the my grandchildren and great grandchildren and my
all
children.
it works. Let's
They're
talk about
carrying
that.
on. They're carrying on the Guy Mullins family tradition.
Yeah,
It's been going for over 100 years.
it's not just a phrase.
No,
No, and it's not just the name of a group. Family
no,
tradition, old
no.
tradition.
My
It's
dad
a-
and
it
mom
is an old
sung in
tradition.
church.
Yes.
Dad would sit over here and Mom would sit over here, and Dad would start a song, Mom would start a song. They sung when we were just little guys, and our family is just it's still going on.
Yeah, it's still going on.
For over 100 years. That's something
Oh, it's amazing, buddy.
amazing.
Yeah, it's really awesome. It is, and you hope it carries on. That's what you want.
Oh,
that's what
Lord.
that's the best.
Nothing would suit me any better than to know that my great grandchildren and grandchildren is going to carry
I know
on
that, Bobby. Yeah.
the singing, the preaching, or
Yes.
whatever.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
When I'm gone.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you'll stick around a lot longer, and hopefully I will too.
Well, I'd
buddy.
like to.
Yeah. And so, but do you have anything else? We're going to wrap this up, Bob. It's been a pleasure talking to you today. Did we not cover something that you had?
No,
that you
I
had
think
in your mind?
I think we pretty well done it.
Okay.
I just
Who this will be special for is, your Grace is going to love this. All your kids and grandkids, they're going to love this, and obviously Betty, and even doing this interview, buddy, she's been right there. She's been your helpmate. You know?
she told me today. She said, "I'll go with you." I said, "Okay."
Yeah, well, we sure welcome her. Betty, we should put you in here too. Bobby, thank you, buddy. I appreciate it.
I've enjoyed it, Kip, and it's good to talk with you and to share all these memories and these
great
things.
stuff,
And I
buddy.
would just like to say this to people that's going to listen to this.
Yeah.
We're serving a great God.
Yes.
And he is one that will always take care of us. And there's nothing too hard for him to do. There's nothing impossible with him. And sometimes we'll kind of maybe get discouraged or whatever, but he is the encourager.
Yes.
And no matter what we have to go through, he is right there with us.
Amen, brother.
And we just need to remember that. And
Amen, brother.
we appreciate being here with you today.
I've seen that with my own eyes, and I appreciate you, Bobby.
All
Thank
right.
you. All right.